Las Vegas, famous, fabulous playground of the West. A wide-open town that never goes to sleep.
Vegas! Vegas, baby! Vegas!
You're either in or you're out. Right now.
My best mates are going to Las Vegas this weekend. I'm told it's incredible.
Vegas, here we go!
Pack your bags and get ready. You're going to Vegas with someone who knows Vegas inside and out. This is Vegas Never Sleeps with Stephen Maggi, the podcast.
In Las Vegas, there's great tribute acts. We've talked to a lot of them. There is one great Dean Martin act, and we're going to meet the man behind that, Tom Stevens. He's so good that Dean Martin, who we had on the show, said, this person does my dad better than everybody else. And Tom, you even look a little like him. You put on some glasses, and my God, it's like Dean is back.
Yeah, I get that a lot. It's a nice illusion, especially from the stage. When I walk out on stage, people are like, they gasp. They think, Dean's back. When I did my first Dean Martin for the Steubenville crowd, which is his hometown, back in when I turned 40, 20 years ago. Oh, my God. It was my first Dean Martin festival.
Yeah.
And there were people that knew Dean. These guys were in their 80s, and they were in tears when they saw me.
Wow.
They knew Dean personally, and they just said, oh, my God, it's like Dean is back.
We're going to talk about the tons of people that you do. I mean, your list is unbelievable. I haven't seen a list like this really since Rich Little's. It's fantastic. But the Martin and Lewis thing, you actually have a tribute show you do with a guy named Tony Lewis, who isn't a relation, right, to Jerry at all.
No, that's actually a stage name for him.
Okay.
Yeah, he's Italian. His name is Antonino Calcagno, and so he took the name of Tony Lewis, and he does what I do here. But his main character is Jerry.
Right. Tony
does multiple impressions also and characters in his show, which he does tour in Australia. And then he had the idea of putting a Martin and Lewis show together. And I never thought about it because I couldn't find anybody to do Jerry.
Yeah. And do you have that mania? Because I know back in the 50s when they were a team, people would talk about just how crazy it was. You guys replicate all that, running around and so forth?
Well, we do it to an extent, but we're both older now, then so we can't. When Jerry and Dean got together, Jerry was 19 and Dean was 28, and so they were a lot younger than we were now. In fact, all the pratfalls that Jerry did, caused his bad back, and for him to be on pain meds for his entire life almost.
But it has to be kind of a fun thing because a lot of us heard about that. I was, young, real young at the time, so I didn't have an idea of what the fact, when I was born, they had already broken up. Mm. I mean, so is this something people they all know Dean Martin through the roasts and all that thing. Do they enjoy seeing that and kind of just getting the feel of this thing?
Yeah. Our demographics have been getting younger because the kids today are curious about what it was like. What true entertainment was like, because they don't have that today.
Right, exactly.
There's no more entertainers today. You get a lot of, bands, but that interaction with the audience. If you ever read Jerry's book, Dean and Me, A Love Story, it's fantastic. And these guys, they were doing 10, 20 shows a day, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. Every, half hour, they would get up to a show. And it was like they were constantly going.
Right.
Back then, they were making incredible money. They bought $4,000 tuxedos back in the, late 40s and 50s.
Wow.
That's nuts,
When you do Dean Martin like that, you have to kind of balance it between drunky Dean and then Dean that's, could sing anything even if he didn't seem so interested in it.
I don't do drunky Dean. I do the Dean you saw on a TV show.
Ah, okay. So just, having a good time, but not,
it's like I have the drink in my hand, but I don't overdo that in my impression of Dean. A lot of guys, what they don't have is the talking voice.
Right.
I do. I studied that part of Dean. And I picked that up a lot from, I was just talking to my buddy about it today. The cartoon, The Ant and the Aardvark. John Biner did The Ant was Dean Martin. And the Aardvark was Jackie Mason. Oh, yeah, little ant will run around town talking like this. Oh, boy, I'm going to go get me a picnic basket, And he had that whole thing about Dean Martin. And I just would listen to John do this, where his take on Dean's voice. And then I would, watch the roasts and, his TV shows. And, he had a way of, had an accent, Dean, because he was born in Steubenville, which they do have their own way of speaking also. Their O's are like Tom, and Dean would go into West Virginia a lot. And that's how he got that kind of a little old drawl thing going on, and that's how he would, do. So I picked that up. And that's why I'm the triple threat. I look, talk, sing, sound like Dean.
Yeah, right. And you're right. You're not doing a Dean Martin that's just, falling on himself or just, kind of using those old Rat Pack lines that we see. Yeah. It's much more sophisticated. And that's why, and you're right. I remember the Ant and the Aardvark. That was great because it was that in Jackie Mason. I remember that.
Now, Tony and I, Dean and Jerry, they broke up 9 years to the day when they got together. And it was July 26th, I think, 1946. And then they broke up in 56, I think. And it was just... So after they broke up, Jerry went on and created the Nutty Professor character, the bellboy character, the Chinese chef they did do together in the Colgate Comedy Hour. Mm-hmm. We have all those characters in our show.
Wow.
So we've incorporated what they did separately also. So we not only have Martin and Lewis, we have Dean with the Nutty Professor.
Yeah, because Dean did change kind of a little his persona, even the Rat Pack thing, and then the TV show was a different guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Dean was always the same guy. He was always that easygoing, not caring character. He just let things happen. He never liked to rehearse.
Right.
He always just showed up for the gig and doing his thing.
But that kind of worked, right? I mean, when you saw it was, right.
Yeah.
People accepted that. And his singing style was such that he just was a good singer. And, with no need to
he told
rehearse.
the story. He was, a good singer tells the story. You read the words to the song and you put it across that way. And, Dean never had singing lessons.
Yeah.
Just went around and, that was his style.
Yeah, Dina said that she used to talk to Uncle Frank, and Frank would try to explain all the different ways you do, how you watch your breath and stuff. She goes, "Is that what my dad does?" He goes, "Nah, he doesn't do any of that stuff."
Frank would swim underwater for long distances to expand his lungs to get that breath control.
Yeah.
I would just hold the bottle longer. That's all. Oh yeah. You just get this tone. I always think about somebody asked me, a musician yesterday, says, "Tom, you're right on pitch every time." And did you study music? I go, no, I just know the sounds in my head. I know where to go for those particular notes. And I know that, like we would just did a show in California last night. And the chart he had for Sway was a half a step lower than Dean's arrangement. And he goes, how do you know? You can hear it. And that I just got that pitch. I know where to go and what Dean's notes were.
But you do so many singers. I mean, different types of singers. And I'm looking at this list. There's people like Tony Bennett, Tom Jones. Two completely different styles.
Yeah.
Is it just, again, you must have just a knack for picking up that thing and getting that really, what makes them all be real distinctive, I would imagine.
It is. I studied Tony Bennett's breath control. He had incredible breath control. And, you got to listen to that, and the astute audiences will pick that up, and after the show they'll come up to me and they'll say, "Man, you nailed that. You got that part of Tony." And if you listen, like when he does "Maybe This Time," he takes a breath. Maybe this time I'll be lucky. Maybe this time she'll stay. All one breath. And that's what Tony was known for.
Wow.
And picking that stuff up. And also changing the vibrato. I have to be able to change my natural vibrato, which is fast, like Dean's and Elvis's,
right,
to slow it up for Tony. because it was slower, Tony's vibrato, than Dean's.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Elvis's was fast. You know?
And then you do like Willie Nelson, which is a whole nother style.
Whole nother style, more nasal. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I should have, you know, and that thing. He's just that nasal. You got to know where to go with your voice.
Yeah, your voice is like an instrument. I mean, because you can hit so many different things. I think Tom Jones is a totally different style too.
Tom Jones is forceful.
Yeah,
and you got to, you know, you're singing more from the chest. I've been in love so many times, thought I knew the score. You know, and it's that very powerful, you know, and with the accent, and, you know, he's from Wales. So you got to pick up all those little things, those little nuances in how they speak.
Then you have Perry Como, which is the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, you can fall asleep while
you
you're
fall
singing.
asleep. How long from night to night you'll find me. He just, that's soft. Very similar to Dean with not pressing. Wow. You know, Dean, you didn't press. It was everybody loves somebody sometime.
Yeah, it's like you just put a smile on Perry Como, right?
You know, and that's what with Dean. It was my dad always said that with me. He goes, I can hear your smile.
Now, have you ever had somebody that, you know, you just tried and couldn't get it?
Sinatra. I can't do Frank's voice. Very difficult. I won't do it if I don't think I do it right, or can do that at least, you know, give the audience some assimilation. You know.
What about like somebody like Johnny Mathis? Is that a difficult one? Or?
Well, it's not. I mean, it's the higher range, and of course, the little bit of the softer vibrato. Yeah. But Johnny's vibrato was very distinct.
Yeah.
You know, and I do him in my Christmas show. But you know, Johnny's it's that. I want you with me all the time. And it's that high. That vibrato is a little bit slower and it kind of dragged out a little. So it's, you know, and I spend so many hours studying. The main thing is to disguise your own voice.
Really?
So my mother was my best critic because she knew my sound. And my wife, you know, if they hear me in the voice and the impression, they go, no, I still hear you.
Wow, that makes sense, though.
You want to take your voice out of it completely. Now, what's funny, I did an interview many years ago with a radio host here, and he was saying how much my natural sound was like Christopher Walken. He says, you know, you're not going to believe this, but you sound so much like Walken. Now, at home, my wife will say that to me, too. But we're both from Long Island. Right. But I know Chris's voice is a little different than I talk. He's got this whole thing. But there are times during the day, I'll say something, and my wife will say, damn, that was Chris. It's just so funny. Wow. It comes out, you know. Yeah. And it's because they were from Long Island, like, I could do a good Donald Trump because I'm from New York, and you got to have that New York attitude. When you're doing Donald Trump, I think it's fantastic. And it's the way he says his words. So, and De Niro, that New York thing, you know, what are you talking about? What do I got to do over here? Yeah? And, you know, if I don't do the face for De Niro, I can't do him.
I was going to ask you, because I'm watching the face. Is it possible to do that without?
No, and it's not. I got to do this.
Wow. Well, and the spoken voice... People think that, wow, she has a gift. Well, you certainly have a gift, but this takes lots of practice.
Oh, yeah. A lot. Some people I can pick up right away if they're so distinct. I did that one time. I was working in Florida. I was a hairdresser for 27 years. And I went to pick up a hairpiece for one of my customers. And the guy that sold me the hairpiece, he had such a distinct sound. Right away, I started doing him right back at him. And my partner, he came with me, she says, Tommy, that was incredible, but don't do that to people. He didn't like it. You know? He didn't know what to do with it, you know. It was so funny. Even my wife, my father-in-law, when I first started dating my wife, I did my father-in-law's voice back at him. And he just closed the refrigerator door and he left the kitchen.
You got to be careful with that.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. But some people will take years, and I'm still practicing. I still work on. You know, you have to go back in and retune and listen to what they're doing. Like right now, I'm back in my room for my rehearsal for my Christmas show because I'm doing things that I've never done before, this show at the Casablanca. Okay. I've never done George Burns's I wish I was 18 again. So I'm going to be singing it live. And
now, do you have a problem like with that sort of thing? Do you have to reach an older crowd because people remember George Burns? Or
yeah, my crowd is up there. The people that come to see me are between 50 and 80. So that's my crowd, and they all remember George.
Yeah.
And I do a great George Burns impression anyway, so that's great, George. And you gotta just do this thing over here for George. It's just that softness. And so I got the music for the background music, so I'll be doing that. So I'm in my room now a lot, rehearsing for this next show. I got 12 days to
Wow.
put it
What I
together.
find interesting about you is, we talked to a lot of great impressionists, but you have such a huge list. Like I say, the only thing I've seen quite like that is Rich Little that can just do anything. And is that part of that just curiosity where as soon as you see somebody, you go, I can do that? Or you want to try to see if you can pick that up?
Well, Rich was my inspiration. I started taping Rich Little when I was 14 years old. I was amazed at what he could do. I first saw him on a show, a TV pilot for Love American Style.
Oh.
And he played a character that couldn't be himself. And he did all these impressions. And then I started to really watch and look for him whenever he was on the Carson show or whenever he did the Dean Martin roasts.
All those things were great. And he would, like you say, he could do it right to the person's face. Like he did Jimmy Stewart right to Jimmy Stewart.
Right. It told Jimmy how to do Jimmy. Yeah. And so I would listen to Rich's version, and then I would listen to the Star, and I would come up with my impression, where my take on that artist or that star.
Yeah.
Like James Mason.
I love James Mason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Rich did a James Mason impression on his show. In his TV shows, he used to do a scene where he would do a serious bit.
Right.
And he did scenes from movies with Bogart, and he did the Caine Mutiny, and then he did Henry Fonda from The Grapes of Wrath, and then he did James Mason from A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
So I would memorize those lines, that whole bit that he did. He did Clark Gable from Gone with the Wind. So I memorized it. I wrote down every word, and then I would repeat it back. And then I would listen to James. I would go back to the movie A Star Is Born and listen to James Mason. Then I would listen to Rich and see where is he getting this take in his voice to do James Mason. So I listened and I came up with my impression of James Mason. Listen to me, Esther. A career is a curious thing. Talent isn't always enough. You need a sense of timing, an eye for seeing the turning point and recognizing the big chance when it comes along and grabbing it. So it's just
great.
listening to that, and getting that tone in your head.
More with Tom Stevens in a few moments. But first, when you visit Las Vegas, you're always looking for fun things to do. And I think one thing you got to put on your list is the Neon Museum. It's fantastic. What a way to learn the history of Las Vegas, but by the signs that go back all the way to the 1930s. The lobby, in fact, is a restored shell from the old La Concha Motel. It's a lot of fun. The staff there is incredible. A really unique Las Vegas experience, so you can learn the history and have a blast. Go to neonmuseum.org. That's neonmuseum.org.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
You are listening to Tom Stevens, great Las Vegas impressionist who does hundreds of impressions of new and older superstars. your impressions strike me as really more subtle. You're not just going for the obvious. Certain people have just obvious tendencies. Yours are a little more subtle, which I think, to me, makes it more interesting.
It does, because it's not. Sometimes you really have to work at getting that. Some of them, like Louis Armstrong, is such a distinct sound, and even still to this day, I had to train myself so it wouldn't hurt me. Because Louis Armstrong's voice, you got to be careful with that. And I can do the entire songs now, and it's not something that I've learned to place it in a spot, and I call it coloring your voice, so that doesn't hurt you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you use pictures a lot? Like when you look at them when you're when you're first learning it, you keep that in front of you, or is that something like, no, I don't need that?
Well, the picture is here.
Yeah,
I try to embody the character, like you saw when I'm doing De Niro. I look like De Niro.
Yeah.
And then when I'm doing Jimmy Stewart, I just end up sounding like, and you get the facial expression, and you just kind of act it out. Yeah, it just comes. I have to do that in order to I embody the character.
Yeah.
When I'm doing Johnny Carson, I got to stand up like this. You just end up trying to be that person.
What about, I'm looking at this list, this long list. First of all, what's your website so you can tell people to go there, because they'll see a lot of this stuff?
Yeah, they go to, it's www.tomstevenstributes.com, tributes with an S, and it's Stevens, V-E-N-S.
Yeah, and that's definitely worth going to. And you'll see there's female names too there. So like Cher you have on there.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do that? Because that's a whole nother thing, doing a female voice.
Well, Cher's voice is deeper.
Okay.
It is a deep voice. And Cher came to be. We went to see Cher in concert at the MGM, me and my wife. And we had seats on the side of the stage, and I'm listening to her, and I turned to Pearl, I go, I think I could do her voice. So I went out, and I had the background music to, what was I doing? I think I was born in the wagon of a traveling show.
Oh, right, yeah, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves.
Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, right. And I'm up in my room, and I had the door closed, and Perla knows when the door is closed, you don't come in, don't bother me, I'm recording. Right. She thought I was listening to Cher.
Oh, wow.
She had to open the door, So she was blown away by that I really got that sound. So she says, you got to do If I Can Turn Back Time in the show.
Right, because that's everybody.
Now it's just like, that's the song that everybody, is familiar with me doing it. And it's like, if I could turn back time, if I could find the way. And it's the way she says the words, Cher's got this thing, like, and it's, it's. Now I've changed it. I kind of lower her key to the key that I can feel I can do this impression.
Right.
I know I don't sound exactly like her, but when I put the wig on and I got the sailor hat and I got a T-shirt that has the bustier of a woman on it, people cry because it's a comical impression.
Right.
So it's a take. Not everything is right on. You don't have to be all the time. I do a bit that I wrote in my show, and it's called my car radio routine, where I ask people how many people like to sing in their car radio.
Yeah.
And they, people raise it. I go, I do too. That's how I pick up new voices. I practice while I'm driving. The only problem is the radio in my truck is broken. It's stuck on scan mode.
Yeah.
So off of YouTube, I downloaded the static of the old-fashioned radios, and I put it in between 17 or 16 singers. And I go from Johnny Cash to Mick Jagger to Billy Joel, Roy Orbison, and I just do little snippets. David Bowie's in there.
I think this is this the part that they were calling the funniest 8 minutes in Vegas? I saw a quote
that was
in there. The
that
karaoke party?
That's my karaoke party. That's where
How does that work?
I have 6 or 7 Sinatra tunes. It's a medley that I had made. And it was supposed to be a serious medley because I used to do a show in Florida with these 2 gentlemen. They did Perry Como and Frank Sinatra. And when the Frank left us, me and Perry we had a Dinah Shore, so we used to do this medley for Frank, and Perry and Dean would do Frank's songs. So it was supposed to be a serious thing. Yeah. I took it and made it my Hollywood karaoke party, where it's all singers that can't sing, celebrities that can't sing, doing Frank's songs.
Oh, that's great.
And De Niro's in that, Jerry Lewis, Jimmy Stewart, I've got Bill Cosby, all guys that can't sing. Christopher Walken, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Come fly with me. We'll fly. We'll flow down to Peru. In Loma Land, they are girly men, and they'll toot your flute for you. Things like that. So I have a lot of fun with it, and it's a blast. Gets a lot of laughs. Nixon is in it.
Yeah, you do the play. You did a great Trump. You do Bill Clinton, as I understand it.
I do Bill Clinton. I do. It's not that hard of a voice to do.
How about Obama? Was that difficult?
I never really tried. I didn't do a big take on Obama, but he's not. He's got a voice that's very deep, and it's a cadence with Obama. You got to have that cadence for Obama. And Nixon was one of my, because Rich Little did a Nixon, and I would love to see Rich Little do Nixon. I used to listen to him, and then so I would listen, and so it's just all the guys that we would, impersonate that Rich did. Basically most of the impressionists just copied Rich Little's impressions,
Well, that's interesting because nobody ever admits that. I mean, that's really interesting to listen. So you can pick up styles from that, but you got to have that talent too.
You know how many Dean Martin guys out there are doing Tom Stevens? Doing Dean Martin?
Right.
Yeah, they're all wearing the glasses now, and it's just so funny. And in fact, one guy called me the other day. It was Tom Whelan. He's a Dean Martin impersonator. He does other voices, and he asked me. Yeah. What's my take on Dean? How do I practice? How do I do it? And I let him know. I just, I'm not, look, I want everybody to have fun and do a good job.
Yeah.
I'm not,
right.
I'm out to help people. Let them, so I told him how I worked. I told him about the Anthony Aardvark and listen to John Biner's take. And that's how you develop your impression of
now, is there anybody else that you really admire? You mentioned Rich Little, of course, and
John Biner, Frank Gorshin, the greats. These guys were the best at what they did.
What do you think about guys like Caliendo? And of course, he's doing different type characters. They're all sports characters.
Well, Frank is an excellent impressionist. He does some really, really good voices. I saw him live when he was out here at the Monte Carlo. He's great in skit stuff, and he's very fast off the top of his head, but I was not entertained. He's a great technician, but he's not, to me, an entertainer.
Right.
He's great for television, and you put him on a skit, and his voices were spot on. But to me, I didn't enjoy going to see him. There's no singing involved with him. He's a lot of talking voices. And my wife was bored because she didn't know half the sports guys that he was doing.
Right. Oh, yeah, no, and he's kind of captured that market is going to be his. That's what he wants to do.
He's got his niche, and he's excellent at what he does. Yeah. He really is.
Is there anybody that you do that you think is just like real quirky that nobody else does that you kind of do that's kind of your thing? I mean, you own Dean Martin at this point, even though other people do it. But I'm talking about something that you think like, wow, I do this. A lot of people don't.
God, I don't know. A lot of guys do the stuff that I do. They all do the Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias with the,
The James Mason's incredible.
James Mason is one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you could put that on, people would think that's James Mason.
I do a lot of the, I was brought up doing the older characters like Gary Cooper and, Clark Gable and Cary Grant.
You think that's partly because when we grew up, that's who entertained us, quite frankly.
Those were the classics. Those were the guys that had distinct sounds. Today there's, because I do the walk-in. Al Pacino, Al's got a voice that's definitely distinct. And you got to do this. And it's this kind of thing. I just put this whole thing together for my Christmas show where it's all the stars reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas."
Oh, I love it.
and I have it on a screen and I have the words on and I do all the voices as they're looking at each character changing on the screen. And I have the same guy holding a book open in a red sweater, but I've got just the faces change, and they all got Christmas hats on. And so that's one of the ones that I do in that. And Pacino's in that walk-in, and Cosby, and And I just put them up on Facebook. You can go to my Facebook page, Tom Stevens Facebook, and all my stuff is up there.
It's well worth looking at. No question. You got stuff on YouTube as well, I would imagine?
I got stuff on YouTube, yeah.
Well worth looking at. You know what? One last thing about the Dean Martin thing. I just want to say, you have the glasses and you look just like him. But if people think that they're going to see like just old Dean Martin, because there was a time when you recognized Dean with the glasses in the older, late part of the career, they'll see that part. They're also going to see young Dean Martin too. I mean, you kind of go across the spectrum. It's not just old Dean Martin.
Well, no. When Tony and I are together on stage, his Jerry Lewis compliments my Dean. And when we're together, we look more like them because we're right next to each other. And the amazing thing, Tony and I are pretty much the exact same age apart that Dean and Jerry were. Dean was 8 years and 6 months, I think, older than Jerry, and Tony and I are 8 years, 3 months apart. And I was born June 8th, Dean was born June 7th.
Wow. That was meant to be.
Yeah, 40 years to the day, almost 39 years, I think it was difference. He was born in 1917, I was born in 58.
Well, the best compliment you got as far as that goes is Dina, who really cares about her father's legacy. I mean, it matters to her. She said, this guy's the best if you want to see it. And that's quite a compliment because a lot of people do that,
Yeah. A lot of guys are trying to do the show, and there's guys out there now trying to do Martin and Lewis. I see some guys are putting it out there, but they don't have it. They don't have what we have. We have an incredible show. This show could go on Broadway. That's how good this show is.
Maybe you think of it. I mean, look what Jackie Mason did towards the end of his career. Went to Broadway and it was a big hit. Sometimes,
Well, this is not the end of my career, pal.
Yeah.
I'm just getting started, pal.
Well, Jackie Mason, when he was on Broadway, I think that was, 30 years ago? And he's still...
exactly. He was old then.
Yeah, Jackie Mason seemed old when he was in his 20s. Just kind of the nature of the guy.
Don't you look back at the old guy when you see them? Like, I look back when Dean was my age, and he looked a hell of a lot older than I do.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Yeah. Right, exactly.
And I'm like, wow. They say 60 is the new 50 now, so.
Well, and plus they lived lives, their 50 is like our 80 or 90.
Yeah, well, they lived a hard life. They worked hard. They did. They went through a lot. And the smoking and the drinking doesn't help.
Yeah,
it does age
exactly.
you. It does. And I don't do that. I don't smoke. I don't drink.
Well, it's certainly, that's good because we want you to be around for a long time. Tom Stevens is one of the best there is. Tom, let's tell people, you've got your schedule on your website, so let's tell them where that is when you're here. Great, and then you also travel around the world, so people can keep an eye on you there. Where do we go?
Well, you go to martinandlewistribute.com, and there you can follow our schedule. Tony will be back here. He lives in Australia, in Melbourne. We just did a 3-week tour there, and he's coming back in January. And we have a lot of interesting things coming up in the future. We can't talk about it yet, but if it happens, it's going to be huge.
Well, good. And we can just keep an eye on that through the website, and we'll have you back on again. And then as far as your website is?
It's TomStevensTributes.com. So Martin Lewis Tribute and Tom Stevens Tributes. And you can go into my Voices page, and I have like the Walk of Stars, and you can click on every star and hear me do 50 voices on there.
That's incredible.
So it's a lot of
well
fun.
Worth the time. And also you're on Facebook and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Just look for me on Facebook, Tom Stevens, and you can go through my Facebook page and see all the stuff that I do, my antics. I get so many I just did Did you see my Cher doing the house cleaning? It was funny.
Oh,
I love entertaining people. I love if I can bring a smile to somebody's face and let them forget about their problems for 30 seconds out of the day and have a good laugh.
It's been a good day.
It's been a good day, yeah.
Well, best of luck with the Martin and Lewis show and all the stuff you do. Keep adding that list and we'll have you on again.
Great. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Vegas Never Sleeps with Stephen Maggi, the podcast, with new shows loaded twice weekly. Got a guest idea? Email us at info@vegasneversleeps.com and catch the show live every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, coast to coast on the Biz Talk Radio Network.
So, are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Have you written a book? You can become a published author with Dorrance Publishing, the nation's oldest publishing services company. Countless authors have trusted Dorrance for nearly 100 years to bring their book to the market. Our professional team will edit your text, design your book pages, and create an appealing, eye-catching custom cover. Plus, our authors benefit from a custom book promotion marketing campaign that makes your book available where people buy books, like Amazon and brick-and-mortar bookstores. So make this free call right now to claim your free author's guide to publishing. Don't wait another day. Take one step closer to realizing your dream of becoming a published author and seeing your name in print. You've already written a book, so the next thing to do is make this free call right now to Dorrance Publishing and get your free guide to publishing. Call right now.
800-908-9850. 800-908-9850. That's 800-908-9850.
Do you own a real business that makes real money? Not just an idea for a business, but a real revenue-generating business? Then we have what every business needs to run and grow. Cash. Call the Business Cash Advance Line, and in just 5 minutes, you could be well on your way to securing up to $1 million in funding for your business. Use the money however you want. Try new advertising, buy inventory, purchase equipment, or pay taxes and other bills. Call now to secure up to $1 million in less than a week. The process is quick and easy. Call the Business Cash Advance Line to speak with an account manager now. Representatives are standing by, so if you need to get up to $1 million in working capital to grow your business, don't wait. Call right now.
800-445-1099. 800-445-1099. Call now. 800-445-1099. That's 800-445-1099.
Hey, Bugsy, you hear the news about Vinny?
Yeah, it's a real shame. He owed money to the IRS and they finally caught up with him.
Just like Al Capone.
If the IRS can get to Capone, imagine what they can do to little old Vinny, huh?
Poor cat, he was on top of the world, and bada boom, bada bing.
What Vinny needs now is an offer he can't refuse.
Hey, you got a tax problem? Does the IRS claim you owe them a bunch of dough? They can get you too. So call the tax relief line now and learn if you qualify to negotiate your $10,000 plus IRS tax debt for up to a 75% savings. Don't be like Al or Vinny and get busted. Make this free call now. Learn how you may be able to pay the IRS less.
Call now. 866-657-8517. 866-657-8517. That's 866-657-8517.